Back at the gym again. Oh boy. All right, so listen, you guys. I'm going to tell you why Chrisley hates jail, but I'm also going to play you a piece of the Lexi Whilby episode that's in the Patreon from Dishing Drama Dana Wilkie podcast, where she spills some tea about Todd Chrisley. And you guys on here probably didn't go in the Patreon, or you only listened to the free part, which was a small percentage of the full episode. So I'm going to do a treat today, and I'm going to listen to some of it with you on here because I want you to hear it. I do secretly really want you to hear it, but of course I have to make a living for my son and I. As you guys know, I have no child support and I work like a dog. So all I can say is I've got at some point to make money to survive. And this is how I do it. And unfortunately, it requires $6 a month for people who love to keep my content going. Yay. Thank you. You guys know who you are. I love you. All right. But I'm going to give you guys a little snippet in here. Why not? Let's do it. Okay. So last week, I think it was last week or just a few days ago, Chase and Savannah Chrisley go on Unlocked, her channel, and they start reading a letter to the governor and all this stuff about why their parents should, be released in the appeal process and how unjust the Justice Department is and that they shouldn't be in jail because stuff was given over to the federal government that shouldn't be, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I'm going to play you part of it so you know, and then I'm going to debunk it all.
So, you need to figure something out.
That ain't the pot calling the kettle black.
Hey, I'm over here. I'm thriving.
Are you?
I'm thriving.
I'm glad Savannah's thriving.
I'm
She took care of the whole
family.
family.
Finding a new person to come and clean. I do have to do that.
You're finding a what?
A new person to come clean for me. Because Grayson and Chloe and myself, that's just a lot. With everything else that I'm doing. But
I just got back from seeing Dad. That was a long visit.
I know.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
That's freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
You were doing that. I was recouping from my trip that I went on that was outrageous, and I did not get paid enough.
Oh, shit.
I did.
Yeah. Can you talk about that?
Savannah goes on and says that she's going to be on a national TV show and she's going to throw up on that TV show for 2 minutes. So she's coming back to TV. Now, I don't think this is the reality show they've been trying to pitch as a family. I think this is a competition show she did. She mentioned that she could get further than Chase. If, he had been on the show, she would have beaten him. So, and it's maybe to do with challenges or something because she threw up, right?
You went and saw Dad.
I did.
And you got to hear about the cluster of everything going on at his facility.
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare. It's awful. Mom also, that whole thing is insane.
Now they both have no air.
Yeah, so
no air conditioning. They both live in states, or they're both in states where it gets 100 plus degrees and there's no air conditioning.
And Mom has rattlesnakes just casually slithering on the floor in front of her.
They weren't rattlesnakes.
They weren't. No.
They were poisonous. It was a poisonous snake. I don't know if it was a moccasin or...
Yeah, so she just had snakes literally right there where her bed is.
And then the way they think to apprehend a snake is to mace it.
That to me is an issue.
No shit. There's no reason why anyone... There's people that... I don't care if you killed somebody. If you're in a government facility, you should have air conditioning.
Yeah, that's
ridiculous.
Air conditioning is just the least of it. Air conditioning is the least of it. Whenever you've got lead-based paint, snakes, and also one thing I don't agree with
it's not fear factor.
Well, Chase, it is prison, so we're not going to sit here and act like it should be the Four Seasons because
I know that, but at the end of the day, it's my parents, so I don't want them, and I don't expect anybody else to feel bad for them. But
I get that, but when people listen to this, again, it's prison. So that's, people don't have any sympathy for it.
Yeah, no, I get
and
that.
so people don't want them.
Well, they don't have any
housed.
sympathy until they're in this situation.
Exactly.
It's their loved one.
Exactly. So when your loved one's sitting there, literally having a heat stroke and ending up in a hospital or not being fed properly, and
it pisses you off.
Of course it does. And it's awful. And the fact that now we have the director of the BOP going around and doing visits.
I want to interject something here. Simultaneously with this interview, also, some press was dropped at TMZ, which I'm going to share with you really quick, just because I think this was an overall effort on the part of the Chrisleys to try to get, a push for their parents in the appeal process. So TMZ got a reach out right when Chase goes on Savannah's show doing this, conversation that, he's getting threatened in prison and people want to take his photograph while he's sleeping and they're stealing his mail and he doesn't know why. This is the prison he's at, by the way, FPC Pensacola. His attorney is Jay Sargent. And of course, Jay reached out to TMZ on Todd's behalf. He said, Todd believes his celebrity status has resulted in some odd occurrences while locked up at FPC Pensacola in Florida, even telling us Todd thinks someone took his photo while he was sleeping. He also claims he hasn't received mail and thinks it's getting destroyed. I don't think so. I think they're probably reading it or selling it. Anyway, regardless, Jay says Todd submitted an application to try to get switched over to home confinement, worth a shot, but that seems unlikely considering the fact the Chrisleys are doing hard time. So something you guys may not know on YouTube is I talk to a lot of people that have been surrounding the Chrisleys, okay? And a lot of people. And so I have some insider intel. And what I will tell you is that this is a concerted, strategic effort by the family, which you can't blame them. I mean, they've got to try. Now, let me debunk some stuff. Now, I'm not obviously going to play you the whole interview, but this part about Chrisley's jail experience obviously is on point for the video, so hang in there for a little longer.
Will leave people speechless about the things that go on in these facilities, and I'm ready for that day to come, but
it's coming.
It'll happen in its own timing, and it's just crazy to sit and watch mom and dad go through that. But luckily, they have the fight in them
They're strong.
Exactly.
And they've remained loyal to each other. They love each other.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, that's the biggest organized crime that I've ever seen is the government.
Well,
and owning and operating places like this to where it's making money for them, but it's literally putting people's lives in danger from the conditions.
Oh, 100%. And it's sad. It breaks my heart. But again, things will be revealed when it's time. And the information that has come to me is astonishing.
In boatloads.
Literally, in boatloads that have been mailed, emailed, direct messaged. I mean,
phone calls.
It's crazy. The amount of no caller ID calls that I get, insane.
So Savannah, I guess, is trying to intimidate the Justice Department by saying that, she's gotten reports about all this wrongdoing happening in the justice system, in her parents' case, in the prisons. That's what she's alluding to. And that she's going to whistleblow it or something. Good luck with that.
But it's just that whole thing, because everyone always wants an update on how mom and dad are doing. And they're doing fine.
They're doing as good as they can.
Exactly. They're doing fine with what they're given. They're getting by, but it's...
But my parents or our parents, they're very, very strong individuals.
Well, yeah,
and they were not built to break. And this damn sure is not going to break them.
No, and two, these tabloid stories that are laughable that come out that say that they're just, they're falling apart. They have no faith. They,
Unfortunately, I think Savannah Chrisley is talking about herself. I couldn't find any press that said anything about Todd Chrisley or Julie Chrisley falling apart or losing their faith. I only could find articles where Savannah Chrisley's life is falling apart from things that she's said. So again, not totally accurate. None of the tabloids are saying what she's saying.
Feel so guilty for what they've done. All of that is bullshit. It's all a complete lie, and it's being fed to benefit other people, and it's just not right. It is so false. The narrative that we give is the truth, and that truth is that they are in inhumane conditions, but while in inhumane conditions, they're keeping their sanity.
They're keeping their faith.
They're putting one foot in front of the other. Mm-hmm. So they're not giving up. There is no admission of guilt. They have, since the beginning,
They've always said that they are innocent.
Exactly. They have always said that they're innocent.
Now then there's the matter of Todd and Julie Chrisley's faith. And I just want to play you a little part of my show just real quick.
For you. I mean, let's face it, it's very difficult for people to think less of a person that they've fallen in love with on TV, but sometimes it just has to happen. Okay, so I have to do the Lord's work. Todd Chrisley and Julie Chrisley would be proud of me for doing the Lord's work, I think.
Oh, yeah. They love to bring in the church. I don't know who their church home is. I've never known their home church, because they've never went. Well, in the years that I've known them.
They never went to church when you were with Kyle?
No.
Stop. Oh, my God. All right. So, based on this epiphany that we have just had that Todd Chrisley and Julie Chrisley did not go to church during the period that you were around them, I'm going to say that I've been pretty much conned by Todd and Julie Chrisley. I definitely, as a viewer, have been conned for sure because they really make it seem that way. Now, what do you think about Nanny Faye? She's loved. What's her story? You like her?
Yes, she is just God sent and an angel from heaven. She doesn't deserve such a treacherous family. And I think that's what messed up Todd so much, having a mother that was so just giving and loving. And the problem is that there's a good and a bad to that, right? So she sees no evil in her son. That's a danger too, because he's never been corrected.
That was Lexi Whilby, and she was with Kyle Chrisley for 7 years, not 5 minutes, 7 years. And in all that time, the Chrisleys never went to church. So kind of interesting, right? The over-the-top, almost pastor-like way they talk to their fans and conduct their shows. And yeah, I know, it's a lot. But I actually want to go back to Savannah Chrisley's interview with Chase again, because I have a big surprise for you after I play this for you. I promise it's worth it.
Let's see, because there was the illegal seizure of the warehouse, and I say...
Which allowed documents in that should never have been in.
Yeah, it should have never been allowed in.
Well, one judge agreed that it was not supposed to be in, and then another one allowed it.
So one of the big things in the case is... So we talk about, obviously, a government's key witness lying on the stand. So we talk about that. And then I say, is this America? Is this how we do justice in this country? Hiding the facts in order to sway the jury to an outcome we desire. Shouldn't the truth be presented without prejudice? Shouldn't we prioritize the facts above all? Isn't it the responsibility of the prosecutors and agents of the court to ethically present the truth and let the jury decide on the outcome based on those facts? This is not the only major issue within my...
None of that is true. There was no illegal seizure of the warehouse by the Department of Revenue in Georgia. And by the way, in the indictment, they didn't use the bank records they found in the warehouse. They initiated their investigation doing that. But what they actually used to prosecute the Chrisleys was documentation that came directly from the banks that showed mortgage fraud. I hate to be a fact checker, but I hope I don't get backlash for this, but it's the truth. Okay, now listen to this part. This is about Josh Waits. Hold on.
Usual interest in my father, Todd Chrisley. This man, who I'm not going to state his name because he loves to get Sue happy. But this man
The
had a
Chrisleys are suing
picture
him.
of my dad on a dartboard in his office, initiated and led a warrantless search of a locked warehouse where my parents stored personal items. This man arrived at the warehouse with his police lights flashing, although he later told fellow Department of Revenue officers to lie by telling people he had not been there. This is absolutely a statement of fact. It is both accurate and provable within the court transcripts, and I can provide you with the exact documentation. With no warrant, this
I'd like to
rogue
see
group
those.
displayed a piece of paper to the manager at the warehouse and demanded entry inside. When the manager initially refused, they threatened the manager with arrest. Again, I can provide proof of these statements. Based on these threats, the Department of Revenue officers forced their way into the warehouse and hauled off its contents. The seized items included massive amounts of furniture, personal property, and about 20 boxes containing documents. Before a court could order the return of my parents' belongings, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office met with the Georgia Department of Revenue to discuss how best to transfer the illegally obtained records to federal agents. Based on these threats, the Department of Revenue officers forced their way into the warehouse and hauled off its contents. The seized items included massive amounts of furniture, personal property, and about 20 boxes containing documents. Before a court could order the return of my parents' belongings, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office met with the Georgia Department of Revenue to discuss how best to transfer the illegally obtained records to federal agents. They decided to obtain federal search warrants, allowing them to seize my family's property from the Department of Revenue's possession. IRS Special Agent Larry Arrow then received the materials seized from the illegal warehouse search. Shortly after, Arrow sought and obtained a federal search warrant for my parents' personal emails held by American Online. Also issued subpoenas for various other records based on what they had seen in those documents. Long before trial, we filed 2 motions to suppress evidence relating to the warehouse documents and the emails obtained from AOL and Google, each raising separate and distinct grounds for relief. The first motion asked the court to suppress the documents and records seized at the warehouse, along with all evidence derived from them. After a 2-day evidentiary hearing on the separate motions, Magistrate Judge Justin Anand entered a report and recommendation on each motion. The magistrate judge determined that the district court should exclude all documents and materials seized at the warehouse and all documents and materials derived from the illegal search. Thus, the court's ultimate suppression ruling on the warehouse motion extended beyond the physical documents.
Now, to be fair, most of that is pretty accurate, except that it wasn't an illegal search of the warehouse when they seized the asset. Just saying. In fact, the Chrisleys had to pay the $110,000 to the state of Georgia before they were able to get their things back. And the search warrant that the federal government did on that warehouse was legal. I mean, they got it. This is where, like, the devil's in the detail. Now, something else to mention is the federal government separately to the warehouse situation submitted a request to the banks to submit all of the paperwork that they received, and they did. Separate to the Chrisleys' emails, separate to the documents in the warehouse, and that was done legally. what I think that Savannah is being a little naive in the sense that the U.S. federal government can use any means available to them if they find out you've done some wrongdoing, or they find out that there's a basis for a criminal investigation. And the powers of an investigation are extreme. They can lie, they can do anything they want to do to get to the bottom of the crime. Then it's a lot more stringent in court. But because the U.S. government, the prosecutor's office, requested the fraudulent banking materials that the Chrisleys, handed over to the banks from the banks, they were allowed to rely on them, no matter how they found out about them. Now, there's a civil litigation that the Chrisleys have taken against Josh Waits in the state of Georgia, but it's really based on the fact that Chrisley's daughter, Lindsay, was sent some tax information that she shouldn't have been when they were trying to pursue her as a whistleblower on her father, an informant, if you will. Anyway, so it's kind of a very sweeping statement to say that the search and seizure of the warehouse wasn't legal, right? And was an illegal search and seizure. Chase and Savannah are really trying to help their parents, but the bottom line is, unfortunately, the FBI can use whatever means necessary if at the end of it they find out that a criminal act has been done. And in this particular case, they did. And the justification that, you hearing about something in another seizure happens all the time. Oh, I got a good example. The Long Island serial killer. They went into his house, and if they happened to see something they believe was used in a crime, even though it's unrelated to their search warrant, they can take it because of the probable cause that seeing something that's illegal is. For example, unregistered guns that need to be registered. They can take them, even if they're not on the search warrant. Now, to be fair, the Chrisleys are suing Josh Waits, not the other way around. But maybe he will sue at some point because Todd Chrisley has completely, and Chase, I should say, defamed Tracy Waits. They've said she's a porn star, a stripper, that she was doing $2.99 porn videos, that they had stolen money and used it to buy things for their house, all of which was a complete lie. And they said it on their huge platform. Now, there's a bombshell in my show that came out, Lexi Whilby dropped, which was, well, first and foremost, that Kyle Chrisley was going to get indicted if she had not put the brakes on a terrorist charge they were working on against him, and he already has a lot of legal problems. So that was very generous of her to do in this, given the situation that I understood happened. But in addition to that, turns out the prosecutors in the process of following up on this indictment against Kyle Chrisley also subpoenaed all of her records, her emails, her text messages, everything. And there was quite a lot of things that were said between Todd Chrisley and her that might be seen as, well, I'll let her tell you.
Love how you put it. That's them in a nutshell. Just last week, I got the terroristic threat case against Kyle dismissed, and I'll send you that paperwork over. Yeah, so when we got divorced, there was a case of, Kyle sending me terroristic messages right when I filed for divorce. And the state took it on, and they didn't just take it on. I found out meeting with the DA last week, they're ready to come with the charges. Everyone asks, why did it take 3 years? Why did it take this long for you guys to now come with the charges? And they gave me the shocking news that they had subpoenaed my iCloud. They've got every text message I've ever sent. They pulled the messages from Kyle, messages from Todd, messages from Lindsay. they know everything above the terroristic threats, and they needed to get insight on what was going on so that they could pursue the case with or without me.
Wow.
And that's when I made the decision that I didn't want to pursue anything more. And I asked for a dismissal. And it was just granted on last Thursday. So I do want to share that with you because Kyle needs to understand, which I know he does, because I spoke to his mother and she's still an amazing soul. And I just wanted them to know it could have really been bad for him. It could have been bad for Todd, right? Because he was sending me things to change my story and really just, what do they call it? Like influencing a witness.
Yeah.
And it was all going to come out. And like the DA said, just know that if we move forward here, it will be a whole trial, publicized case. And there's no way to seal cases like this because it is a criminal case. And there's no way for him to take a plea deal because I asked for it and they said no. Due to his history and his continuous assaults and domestic violence, like the one he recently got locked up for, they will not be accepting and going into any type of like mediation or like pretrial services kind of thing because he doesn't qualify for pretrial stuff. So it had to go to trial, some long story short. And he'd have to be charged first. So that's when I made the decision to pull the plug. And that's really just to keep the peace. And so I want to share that with you and with everyone. So it's like I'm not this, crazy, evil woman trying to take down the Chrisleys. In so many ways, I've walked away at times when I should have. I told you when I did it with the FBI.
Now, one thing I can say is Savannah and Chase Chrisley have done a great job in enrolling the world, the fan base, in helping their parents reach out to senators. I don't know what else. Maybe they'll hit up the president next, but you get the idea. To try to get their parents pardoned, or in this case, I don't know, have the appeal go through. But you don't bully the government. It never works. I have 2 more Dishing Drama Dana podcast bombshell interviews coming out to do with the Chrisleys. One comes out next Sunday and the other one a few weeks from next Sunday. But if you're into the Chrisleys case or true crime or Todd Chrisley and Julie Chrisley, just as, generally speaking, you're going to really enjoy these episodes. Yes, indeed. Okay, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And if you want to sign up for the Patreon, $6 a month, and the link is in the description of this video, along with a lot of other fun stuff like merch. Okay, bye.